Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, our exclusive conversation with Kansas Big First District Congressman Tracey Mann. We caught up with him as he was touring and doing town halls within the district. We'll talk Farm Bill and what to expect the rest of this year from Congress. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, along with the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture information, USDA released the latest planted acreage report with some caveats. U.S. farmers still have 3.36 million acres of corn to plant, 12.8 million acres of soybeans. Corn planted area for all purposes currently estimated 91.5 million acres. That's down 3% or 3 million acres from last year. Soybean planted area for 2024 estimated 86.1 million acres. That's up 3% from last year. The all wheat planted area for 2024 estimated 47.2 million acres, down 5% from a year ago. The 2024 winter wheat planted area, 33.8 million acres, down 8% from last year, 1% from the previous estimate. Of the total, 24.1 million acres, hard red winter, 6.14 acres, soft red winter, and 3.59 million acres established white wheat. Well, the USDA June grain stock report also shows the corn stalks in all positions on June 1st were 4.99 billion bushels, up 22% from June 1st a year ago. Of the total stocks, 3.03 billion bushels were stored on farm, 37% higher than last year. Off-farm stocks hit 1.97 billion bushels, or 4% higher than 2023. Soybeans in all positions June 1 totaled 970 million bushels, up 22% from June 1st of 23. The on-farm stocks up 44% from last year at 466 million bushels. Off-farm stocks 504 million, up 6% from last year. Old crop all wheat stored in positions totaled 702 million bushels, up 23% from 2023, and the on-farm stocks estimated at 139 million bushels, up 12% from last year. So you can see farmers holding on to some of that grain. Well, a Pew Research Center survey shows that some Americans are driving a decline in America's support for renewable energy. While solar and wind power remain popular, support for expanding them is dropping. In 2020, solar expansion had the backing of 90% of people that were surveyed. That's now down to 78%. Wind seen a similar dip from 83% in 2020 to 72% now. The author of the report says although broad public support for renewable energy is still there, the breadth of that support less widespread than it was some 4 years ago, even a year ago. The Pew report is titled How Americans View National, Local, and Personal Energy Choices. It shows that tempered interest in EVs. Survey respondents are showing reluctance to embrace the initiative, like phasing out gas-powered vehicles. 3 in 10 Americans say they would, though, consider buying an electronic vehicle. And officials from the U.S. Trade Rep's office hammering arguments made by Mexican representatives during oral arguments about Mexico's ban on imports of genetically modified corn used for some food products. The ban was issued in early 2023. USTR filed a dispute settlement under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement over the issue in August of that year. During the hearing, U.S. officials argued that Mexico didn't conduct a risk assessment to support its claim that the documentation provided was over 20 years old. They also said Mexico's regulatory agencies previously determined that GMO corn was safe. We'll have more coming up in just a moment here on the Kansas Ag Report.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And our special guest is Kansas 1st District Congressman, Representative Tracey Mann. We caught up with him as he's making a tour of the 1st District. So, Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Great being here in Norton with you, Ken.
Okay, so we have caught first part of July, second half of the year. You don't have much time left to get things done on the congressional calendar, but let's talk about the Farm Bill. That is probably one of the first things you're hearing as you're talking with constituents.
We'll do a dozen stops this week. It's definitely front and center for everybody, as it should be. Current Farm Bill expires September 30th. I've been very frustrated with this process, Ken. I'm on the House Ag Committee. It's taken a long time. The House did pass a really good, there's no perfect bill, but a really good version out of the House about a month ago. We now need the Senate to act and for those to come together and get this thing done.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about what is in, what isn't, what could stay. Looks like, yet again, there's a lot of things that are good for Kansas farmers.
That's exactly right. Biggest thing, this is a fiscally conservative farm bill that puts taxpayer dollars, being a good steward of taxpayer dollars, but also make sure we have good return on investment for our taxpayer dollars. Spending money on things like crop insurance, things like expanding MAP, Market Access Program, and FMD, for market development, to make sure that we're expanding trade and spending money on ag research. These are very high return on investments. We included that in the bill, and I'm really excited about it.
What are the prospects? I mean, it came out of the House Ag Committee, which you're a member of,
yep.
But then that's one of many steps.
Yeah, this is a multi-round battle, if you will. We're doing everything we possibly can. The election is going to impact this farm bill. Politics is political. So whatever happens in the election or people perceive will happen will impact folks' motivation to get something done. I'm optimistic there'll be a window to get this thing to the floor of the House and pass that out of the floor of the House for the next few weeks, but we will see as schedules come together.
But do you think, because we're going to run on to the end of September pretty quick, think there may be another 60, 90-day extension to maybe do the final version in the...
I think there's a good chance of that. It expires September 30th. Mm-hmm. Remember last year, September 30th came and went, and then December 31st approached, and then it was extended. Programs like crop insurance, the vast majority of the safety net that's in place really doesn't change until January 1. So we have quite a few weeks here.
Reference prices is one that I know farmers are wanting. If there's a possibility they can make some adjustments because they haven't been done for a long time.
And need to be done. And you look at where input costs are. Ken, you know this firsthand. Where input costs are, where reference prices are, it doesn't really reflect the market today or producers' profitability. The version that we passed out of the House Ag Committee does have increases in reference prices, long overdue and coming.
A lot of farmers are concerned about some of the conservation things in there, some of this green farming, if you will. One of those is to qualify for this new generation of aviation fuels. It doesn't work in the 1st District of Kansas.
In some areas it might, though. I mean, I'm a proponent of aviation fuel. I mean, we need to make sure that we're producing fuels in our district, and the American farmer is at the table to be part of that. That said, there's a lot of Green New Deal. There's a lot of provisions that aren't good for our district, aren't good for the farmers in Kansas that I don't think make a lot of sense.
Well, hopefully, as the process works, you can get those to where it's something that all farmers will be able to participate in rather than going through a myriad of situations that may not work for the farmer.
That's exactly right. And let's try to make these as market-based as we possibly can. Let's make sure this farm bill is a good steward of taxpayer dollars, fiscally conservative, and puts a good safety net in place so that American farmers can do what they do best, and that's feed the rest of the world.
We're talking with 1st District Congressman for Kansas, Tracey Mann. We'll take a quick break, back with more in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com. And our guest this week is Kansas 1st District Congressman Tracey Mann, and we caught up with him in Norton as he is on the tour of the 1st District. So as you're making these stops, Farm Bill and agriculture issues, I'm sure, are very much on the top, but there are other issues as well you're hearing from.
A lot of issues on people's minds all over the district. I would say the border is front and center. Our wide open southern border, we're now approaching 10 million people that have been let into the country legally. And I'm all for immigration, legal immigration, but we need to go about it legally. We need to have a working system. This chaotic, wide open southern border, I don't think anyone can objectively look at it, Ken, and say it makes any sense at all.
Well, it seems like the system is broken and folks have tried, but it seems like that nasty thing called politics gets in the way.
No, that's right, and you have competing interests. It's been very frustrating to say the least. But we need, and it's possible to secure the border, then we need to come up with a working immigration system. We also need to address the lack of labor throughout the economy and in agriculture. These three things often get lumped together. They're actually separate. You look at the requirements placed on H-2A. You look at how the federal government continues to make things difficult for our job creators. All of those are things that need to be changed moving forward.
I'm sure one of the things that you're bringing up and others are talking about as well are taxes from the federal level. The Trump tax cuts have about, what, a year and a half?
Yeah, a year and a half. So all the Trump tax cuts, Tax Cut and Jobs Act, all those tax provisions expire December 31 of 2025. So that's 18 months from now. So unless Congress acts, everyone's going to see a big tax increase. That's corporate income tax, personal income tax, estate taxes, the ability to expense machinery, equipment, a lot of things. So this election is going to impact what happens with tax law, and certainly it's going to be front and center in Washington first part of next year.
We'll talk about elections, but not only for the president, as we go through a third of all the House is up, a third of the Senate's up. How can election politics get in the way of getting anything accomplished the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, the election looms over everything. And politics is political. That's the nature of what it is. But certainly, this election's coming up. It's a big moment for our country. I think as we decide on a whole lot of issues, what direction we're going to go, and we will see what happens. Optimistic that our country will be at a better place, better footing here after the November election, but we will see.
Well, and that's going to be the big thing is folks need to participate. There's a lot of chatter out there. People they need not be frustrated. They need to participate. I don't want to take your words from you, but I think
that's exactly right. This system is, we live in a democracy, and we all get to vote, which is an amazing thing. We cannot take that for granted. And I'm for a robust participation by the electorate to make sure their voice is heard, as far as what candidates they choose and whatever issues are before them.
Well, Congressman, as always, great to see you. Thanks for spending some time with us, and good safe travels as you go about the district and do good work for us in D.C.
Appreciate you and your friendship and what you do, Ken. Yeah,
thank you very much.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Hi, my name is Rachel and I'm an agronomist from K-State, and today we're going to be talking about growing degree days in corn. So I don't know about you, but my favorite temperature is between 55 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's because I can go outside and I can wear a hoodie. It's nice fall weather. That's where I like it to be. You might have a different preference, but that's mine. Growing up, you may have had a certain temperature where your mom wouldn't let you wear shorts, or maybe it was too hot to wear a jacket. You had different rules in your house. Corn has rules too, as far as what temperatures it likes and what temperatures it can grow in. Corn's absolute favorite temperature is 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and the base temperature that corn needs to grow is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The maximum happens to be the same as its favorite, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So every day, corn experiences those temperatures, different temperatures. The temperature needs to be at least 50 for corn to grow. If the temperature goes beyond 86, corn isn't going to grow any faster than it already is because 86 is its favorite. When we're calculating growing degree days, every day we calculate the degree units that corn has accumulated in that given day by subtracting the average temperature of that day, the base. We subtract the base from that average temperature. And over time, it accumulates those. So we add up the units that it gets every day. For reference, for corn to emerge, for corn to come up out of the ground, it needs 100 to 150 growing degree day units. For it to mature and be ready to harvest, we're looking more at 1,500. So lots of numbers that we have to add together to get to maturity. So we're going to do some examples here. So if we had a day, this is our first day, we had a minimum temperature of 50 degrees and a maximum temperature of 86 degrees. The mean, so we would add them up and divide by 2, and that would give us 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's our average temperature for that day. To figure out how many growing degree days, growing degree units we got in that day, we would take our average temperature, so 68 minus our base temperature, the minimum temperature that corn needs to grow, which is 50, and that would give us 18. So on this day, our corn has 18 degree units that it grew. Let's try another day. So on this particular day, we had a minimum temperature of 45 degrees Fahrenheit and a maximum temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if you remember what we said earlier about the range of temperatures that corn needs, our base temperature, so the lowest temperature, is 50. So what we're going to do is we're going to correct this number to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And our maximum temperature, which is the same as corn's favorite temperature, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit, we're going to correct our maximum to that number. So that's what was within the range that corn needs.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
150 years ago, the first harvest of turkey red wheat was largely dismissed as a small experiment. The introduction and adoption of this single variety, however, would forever change the wheat industry and establish the genetic lineage for the wheat Kansas farmers are harvesting this summer. Probably no year holds more significance to the wheat industry in Kansas than 1874, said Aaron Harries, Vice President of Research and Operations for Kansas Wheat. The Mennonite farmers who emigrated that year to Kansas from Ukraine helped develop Kansas into a rich and productive agricultural economy. These families brought with them turkey red winter wheat, and as they say, the rest is history. The Kansas Territory officially became the state of Kansas on January 28, 1861. Just months before the start of the Civil War, frontier farming looked very different than today's modern farmsteads. The soft wheat planted in Western Europe was considered ill-suited for Kansas, requiring substantial labor to plant by hand and thresh by beating wheat heads against rocks. There was simply nothing like it at the time, Harry said. Turkey red became the most desirable wheat in the world, and Kansas became the world's breadbasket. Today, half of Kansas wheat varieties can trace their lineage back to turkey red. Wheat breeders improved on turkey red wheat, establishing shorter, modern varieties with built-in disease resistance and improved yield potential while maintaining milling and baking quality. Thanks to turkey red, Kansas farmers will harvest their 150th hard red winter wheat crop this summer, and billions of bread loaves and other products will be baked to feed families around the world. Learn more about Turkey Red and the Mennonite farmers who brought the variety to Kansas in an episode of the Wheats on Your Mind podcast.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Butler County Farm Bureau is the County Innovation Award winner in education. The county's event, Charcuterie with Chefs, focused on educating chefs in training at the Butler Community College Redler Culinary Institute about local foods, connecting them with farmers and ranchers and fostering an appreciation for the challenges faced by agricultural producers. In addition, the event aimed to promote culinary education, connect consumers with producers, and support Butler County Farm Bureau's Ag in the Classroom program, all while subtly introducing attendees to the mission and benefits of Kansas Farm Bureau. By utilizing the Culinary Institute and offering a class in charcuterie board preparation with local chefs, the county successfully attracted a different sector of the community, particularly those interested in the local farm-to-table movement. The inclusion of producers and the involvement of a local brewery and winery added layers of education and entertainment. The creative integration of agriculture in the culinary experience created a positive impact on consumers and potential associate members, further reinforcing the value of local producers. Congratulations to Butler County Farm Bureau for their efforts in reaching more educators, ultimately benefiting the next generation of chefs and ensuring they appreciate the hard work of Kansas farmers and ranchers.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The Kansas Beef Council recently hosted a training for science, technology, engineering, and math teachers. The group started at the Stanley Stout Center in Manhattan, then toured Downey Ranch of Wamego and Tiffany Cattle Company near Harrington. A tour of Downey Ranch featured hands-on stations showcasing how STEM principles are a daily part of ranch management. Stations included discussions on herd management using drones and heat sensors, genetic technology demonstrations, interactive pregnancy check model presentations, and a display of new equipment innovations such as GPS collars for cattle. Faculty from the Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine and Kansas State Department of Animal Sciences and Industry, including Professor of Veterinary Medicine Bob Larson, Clinical Assistant Professor of Animal Sciences Philip Lancaster, and Assistant Professor of Animal Sciences Macy Mueller were on hand to help with the demonstrations and answering questions. While at Tiffany Cattle Company, attendees learned about technologies like hormone implants and how feed yard design can improve animal handling. They also saw the regenerative practices the feed yard uses. Feedback gathered through pre- and post-event surveys revealed a noteworthy shift in participants' views regarding beef production practices. Specifically, the teachers expressed trust in the innovative methods and technologies employed, including antibiotic use and the humane treatment of animals. Building this trust shows the value of on-farm STEM training programs like this, which are funded by the Beef Checkoff.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Good morning. This is Jacob Herzog with Pinion Risk Management. Last week's supply and demand report is out of the way, without major damage to the markets. The USDA has kept most of the U.S. and world ending stocks unchanged from the forecast in May, but did drop Russia's wheat crop by 5 million metric tons to 83, and it cut Ukraine's by 1.5 million metric tons to 19.5. Now, outside of last week's USDA report, old crop values have been gaining slightly on new crop. Demand for U.S. old crop corn continues to rise and to be competitive. And with Brazil's bean supplies tight, we actually see bean exports from the Pacific Northwest are cheaper for China than importing them from South America. Now in Washington, the Fed has kept rates unchanged, with a forecasted cut sometime this year and potentially 4 in 2025. Now with all this behind us, the trade looks to the extended weather forecast in the June 28th USDA report. I believe most in the trade are expecting to see a slight decrease in corn and an increase in bean acres. But again, if that is the expectation, the trade will need to see an upset for a major price swing. Of course, weather is basically going to trump almost everything, as it usually does. Current forecasts out east call for much above average temperatures and more or less about on average precipitation. Now, it feels like it will come down to the forecast either adding to or taking out of forecasted rainfall. More rain, less heat, markets will likely fall. Less rain, more heat, they will likely rally. I know it's obvious and we all basically know how it works every June, July, August weather markets. Caution is advised for the next couple months on the marketing side. If you would like to talk to somebody about a plan, you can reach us at 888-452-8751. I'm Jacob Herzog with Pinion Risk Management.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
That's our program this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Be social with us online, KansasAgReport.net, or our social media channels. We hope you had some opportunity to pause on this Independence Day weekend to thank everyone who made sacrifices so we could enjoy our independence as the greatest nation in the world. I'm Ken Rogers. We'll see you next week on the Kansas Ag Report.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.